Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now that 2023 is almost at an end, we only have 2 events scheduled on the UFC's calendar for the rest of the year. I wanted to make a list of my top 5 breakout fighters for 2023. Now, for me, a breakout fighter is somebody who had a phenomenal year, fighting and winning at least more than once. Somebody who may have drastically changed fans' perspectives about how good they were, how much they improved, what their ceiling could be, all of that good stuff. Some of these guys on my list might seem like no-brainers, or, are there people that you thought opinions haven't really changed about them a whole lot, and that's fine, dude. Let me know your breakout fighters down below if I missed any that you think deserve to be on this list. I also tried to keep it to ranked fighters because I feel as though wins over ranked competition, even if the win is not as emphatic, is more impressive than just decimating unranked guys. So for an example, Leon Edwards' head kick over Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, is much more impressive than maybe like Joaquin Buckley's phenomenal spinning back kick KO over Impa Kasanganay, just because of the competition he was facing, the stakes that were there also. Unfortunately, all of my breakout fighters come from just 2 weight classes. I tried my best to look through all of the weight classes. A lot of guys had either mixed records, only fought once, maybe twice. Maybe some of the competition wasn't as stiff as I thought it was for these guys, but regardless, this can kind of happen sometimes when you either have a long reigning champion or a division that has been at the top, or you've had guys at the top for so long that are kind of starting to age out. That might just give away those 2 weight classes, but regardless, let's get right to it, dude. Number 5 on my list, Benoit Denis, okay? This guy had 3 stellar performances in 2023, all coming in the second half of the year, all from July onwards, which for me makes it more impressive that these 3 performances came within a 6-month span, okay? Went from being a nearly plus 250 underdog or something along those lines against Ismail Bonfim to a minus 225 against Matt Frevola, and he showed us why. All 3 of his victories were via stoppage, 2 of them coming in the first round, all different methods, by the way, which I find to be extremely impressive. He can do basically everything, okay? One of the finishes was with the hands. We got his submission on there, and then that stunning head kick over Matt Frevola at UFC 295. He's now closing in on the top 10. I think he's ranked at about number 12 right now, and I reckon he takes it farther than that in 2024. Just 2 years ago, this guy lost his debut to Eliza Zaleki dos Santos up a weight class, right? He only fought twice in all of 2022, beating guys that nobody really knows nor cares about, not ranked. And while they were impressive victories, these 3 this year, in my opinion, were much more impressive. And to go from being a plus 250 your first fight in the year to basically that same but just minus towards the end of the year, it kind of shows how good of a year you really had. Now, moving to number 4 on my list, okay, Brendan Allen. Now, Brendan Allen had a fucking phenomenal 2023, okay? And don't get me wrong, he had a really strong 2022 as well. And I feel as though he was on the radar of a lot of hardcore fans, but not so much for the casuals. If you were a hardcore fan, you probably had your eye on Brendan Allen for a good long while, but I feel like this year was kind of a breakout year for him, okay? He delivered beyond expectations, in my opinion, and has showed us this year that he could be a real force in the middleweight division come 2024. He fought and won 3 times this year, all of which came by stoppage, all of which by rear naked choke, and not against bums. Now, you might think that some of the competition he faced, they're not the cream of the crop, they're not the best of the best, but context is key, okay? So were his opponents all top 10 guys? No. Right? But he started off the year by submitting Andre Muniz, okay, who before fighting Brendan Allen hadn't lost in nearly 7 years. Guy was on a 9-fight win streak, 5 of those in the UFC, and 3 submission victories in the UFC among them, okay? This was a guy whose grappling was respected by many, and Brendan Allen finished him in his strongest area and made it look relatively easy, okay? And then just about 4 months later, he submits Bruno Silva in the first round. Now, this one's a little less impressive based on how good of a grappler Bruno Silva is compared to Andre Muniz. Regardless, okay, he did what he was supposed to do if that is the case, right? He went out there and he finished him in the first round. Also, had a little bit of maybe slight adversity on the feet, right? Bruno Silva cracked him a couple of times. Now, he cracked Bruno Silva a couple times also, but that first round was fucking nuts until he ended up getting the submission. But that's what you want him to do against a guy that is not a top flight grappler. You want to see him be able to do that to a guy like Bruno Silva, and he fucking did it, okay? And then he fights Paul Craig, who is a nasty, nasty submission grappler. Submitted the likes of Magomed Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, Nikita Krylov. I mean, he's not the most consistent fighter of all time. We all know that. It's a bit of a meme, but keep in mind, all these names I just told you of guys that he has submitted are up a weight class, like much bigger fucking dudes than Brendan Allen, right? His middleweight debut against Andre Muniz also looked phenomenal. He looked phenomenal, right? And Paul Craig was absolutely no factor whatsoever for Brendan Allen. Complete domination, start to finish. Ended up submitting Paul Craig in the third round, which, by the way, only one other man has submitted Paul Craig throughout his MMA career, and that was Jimmy Crute, if I'm not mistaken, who is a giant light heavyweight, especially compared to the likes of Paul Craig. Okay, so Brendan Allen now ranked inside the top 10. I believe he's number 8. And if I'm being honest, dude, I don't mind his chances against quite a few of the guys at the top of middleweight. In my opinion, I think he could beat Khamzat Chimaev. That might be a bit of an overstatement, and that might piss some of you off. But based on his cardio, he doesn't tire. He's not a huge risk taker. He would rather melt you, cook you, right, before he starts going for submissions and shit like that. I think he's got a good chance against a lot of the guys at the top of middleweight, and I think that 2024 he'll have a good year. Also, moving up to number 3 on my list, this is the one that I feel like most people are going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Breakout year, dude. Justin Gaethje, okay? As I said, this one might surprise a few of you. You're probably thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? Gaethje's been known, been around, been loved. Everybody knows he's a savage, blah, blah. Sure. And while all that is true, by the way, Justin Gaethje, I feel, seriously changed his perspective, or changed the perspective of a lot of fans this year regarding specifically his improved defense. Okay, from 2020 to 2022, he fought only 3 times. He was finished in 2 of those matches, only beating Michael Chandler, who has been beaten by 3 of the top 5 lightweights, and Gaethje was the only one to not finish him. And I know that that fight was wild and phenomenal, and he absolutely did beat the shit out of Michael Chandler, basically, after that first round. But I feel like the Justin Gaethje of 2023 finishes Michael Chandler, and I don't think it's hard for him to do so, okay? Justin Gaethje is known and loved because of what a fucking marauder he is, right? The style that he fights, some of the most entertaining fights of all time. He might be the most entertaining fighter to ever step foot inside that octagon, but it's not necessarily conducive of any long-term success, okay? In March of 2023, however, Justin Gaethje did something that almost no top lightweights, okay, aside from Beneil Dariush just fucking last week, was willing to do, and that was take on a guy ranked outside the top 5, right? A new, young, hungry up-and-comer that a lot of guys were avoiding, okay? He fought Rafael Fiziev in a 3-round war, and while it was close, you could see some major improvements, and evidence of major improvements in Justin Gaethje's striking defense, being less susceptible to the body, which was something he had a bit of an issue with before. Rolling with shots a lot better, and towards the end of the fight, man, Fiziev's face looked like it was falling off, whereas Justin Gaethje looked like he had just gone for a run or something. Do you know what I mean? So he causes a ton of damage, and he didn't allow a lot of damage to be done on him, which in previous fights he would get damaged quite a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's par for the course in a Justin Gaethje fight. He takes a lot of damage. He dishes out a lot of damage. Sometimes it goes his way. Sometimes it doesn't. In this fight, though, I feel as though he fought a lot smarter, a lot more calculated, a lot more defensively mindful, while still being that extremely exciting offensive guy that we've come to fucking love. Okay, now after that in July, they set up a rematch between him and Dustin Poirier for the BMF belt, whatever, who cares? A guy who had finished him 5 years prior, right? In the opening round, aside from like a single moment when Poirier cracked him with a good shot that kind of wobbled him, you could see once again evidence of Gaethje's new and improved striking defense. He was rolling with shots a hell of a lot better. Dustin Poirier wasn't able to land cleanly a whole lot. Justin Gaethje, if I'm not mistaken, outstruck him in that first round, and then he did something absolutely fucking stunning and beautiful, and he head kicked Dustin Poirier. I mean, dude, you could probably count on one hand how many times Justin Gaethje's thrown a head kick like that, and 2 of them were in that Dustin Poirier fight, right? Like, picture perfect behind the right hand to get Dustin to slip just enough into it, which was also, keep in mind, making an adjustment from the first round where he threw that very same head kick without the right hand in front of it, just naked, and it missed because Dustin Poirier had his hand up there to block it, and he wasn't slipping in the direction of that kick. Justin comes out the second round, makes the adjustment, puts the right hand in front of it, makes him slip, and fucking KOs him stiff, dude, okay? In my opinion, Justin Gaethje is like a different fighter altogether from just a few years ago, while still being unbelievably entertaining, which I think is something that's really hard to do. You see a lot of guys who, once they become champion, they play safe and they don't want to lose their belt, and I totally fucking understand that, but I love seeing a guy like Justin Gaethje becomes more defensive, but not less boring. It's fucking unreal, dude. And to get that victory over Dustin Poirier after the way Dustin Poirier finished him in their first meeting was fucking awesome. To beat Rafael Fiziev, an up-and-coming guy who a bunch of people were high on. Justin Gaethje was like a plus 235 underdog in that fight, right? And then he just brutalized his face. So Justin Gaethje is my number 3. Now, number 2, Dricus du Plessis. All right, boys. Dricus du Plessis, for me, had to make this list. I just didn't quite know where I would place him, but he's at number 2, dude. And I think he deserves to fucking be here. Dricus du Plessis, in my opinion, made this list because of just one performance, okay? But it wasn't his only performance of the year. And part of why his second performance, to me, was so impressive was the context of his first performance, right? That's actually why I have him on here. Because if you look at the stark difference between his first fight in 2023 and the second fight in 2023, it'll blow your fucking mind, okay? In March, he fought and defeated Derek Brunson, but not without a ton of adversity and not without looking sloppy as all get out, okay? And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, okay, he beat Derek Brunson, but he almost got finished. And Derek Brunson has been basically butchered by most of the guys at the top of middleweight. So I just thought to myself, no, I don't think Dricus will be competitive at the top of middleweight. These guys are too squared away, too dialed in, right, to lose to somebody as sloppy as Dricus du Plessis was against Derek Brunson. He literally almost got finished in that first round. It was a brutal first round for him. He gassed out after 5 minutes. It was not a good performance. While he did end up getting the finish, it was like he pulled it out of his ass, kind of, okay? So, naturally, when he gets matched up against Robert Whittaker, I thought he'd get absolutely fucking schooled, outclassed, beat down, all that shit. He comes out against Robert Whittaker like a completely different fighter, completely focused, no room for error, dialed away, fucking beautiful game plan, okay? Something that I hadn't seen him really implement before. High and tight guard, right? Aware of Whittaker's lack of body attack, southpaw jab to hurt Whittaker, which is something that he's been hurt with a whole bunch, right? Even won the first round based on a grappling exchange. He wasn't biting on feints like we saw him do against Darren Till. This was an absolute masterclass performance against, in my opinion, one of the best middleweights of all time. Some of you may take issue with that, but man, Robert Whittaker had only lost Israel Adesanya since 2014, right? And since moving to middleweight. And in my opinion, he should have won the second fight. So he would have been 1-1 against Israel Adesanya, and that's from 2014 onwards. Absolutely insane. Right now, Dricus du Plessis, in just a month's time, is fighting for a title against Sean Strickland. If you would have asked me at the end of 2022, after watching that Darren Till fight, where he had a very dominant first round, 10-8 in my book, okay, comes out and almost loses in the second round. He looked like there were moments where he looked like he might get finished. Darren Till was pressuring him. Dricus was up against the fence. He was biting on all of Dricus's feints, freaking out, spazzing like fucking crazy. If you would have asked me, do you think this guy will be champ? I'd have probably said, what? No, dude. And now if you ask me, it's like, holy shit, he might be. Do you know what I mean? I'm still torn on who I think will win between him and Sean Strickland, but it's not because I don't have a respect for Dricus du Plessis' game any longer. That Robert Whittaker fight put me and a ton of fucking people on notice and proved us all wrong. It was a phenomenal performance, and in my opinion, that is what made him a breakout fighter of 2023. Now let's get to the final fighter on my list, okay? Number 1. The number 1 breakout fighter of 2023 is Sean fucking Strickland, okay? I don't know how I could have put anybody else at number 1, if I'm being honest. Sean Strickland is the breakout fighter of 2023 in my book without a fucking doubt, okay? At the end of 2022, dude, Sean Strickland lost a very close and controversial split decision to Jared Cannonier after getting knocked out to Alex Pereira just a few months before that, okay? Shit was not looking good for Sean Strickland at the beginning of 2023. But he comes back in a month after that Jared Cannonier fight for a very short notice opportunity against Nasruddin Imavov, who also had a ton of hype on him, by the way. This fight took place at light heavyweight, but only because of the short notice nature of the fight. It was effectively a middleweight fight, right? He puts on a phenomenal performance, kind of schools Nasruddin Imavov, kind of exposes him, if we're being honest, and wins that one by unanimous decision, right? About 6 months later, he accepts a fight. This is part of why I love Sean Strickland. There are not many ranked guys that are willing to do this. He accepted a fight against an unranked Abus Magomedov, a guy who had only had one fight in the UFC so far, a guy who the UFC was trying to fast track. This fight was not put together to get Sean Strickland a win. This fight was put together to get Abus Magomedov in a place where he could be a fresh opponent for Israel Adesanya. Okay, Sean Strickland absolutely schools this kid. Okay, who had, as I said, only one fight in the UFC prior, but it was a beautiful victory on his part. Strickland completely exposes Abus Magomedov. Okay, he had a bit of a tough first round, but he comes out there in the second, keeps the pressure on, keeps doing his thing, and eventually melts Abus Magomedov and finishes him. Now, Abus kind of melted about 2/3 of the way through that first round, right? But Sean Strickland just kept the pressure on and just, as I said, exposed Abus Magomedov and showed us how good Sean Strickland can be when he's dialed in, okay? Then Sean Strickland, this context is very important. Sean Strickland gets handpicked by the then champion Israel Adesanya, okay, after his fight with Dricus du Plessis fell through. This is why I get irritated when people try to use Sean Strickland as like, oh, people only want to complain about undeserved title shots when it's certain people, but when it's Sean Strickland, nobody cares. That's not what happened. Sean Strickland didn't just get a title shot because the UFC wanted to push him. It was the opposite, dude. The champion at the time, Israel Adesanya, handpicked him. So if you've got a problem with Sean Strickland getting a title shot, take it up with Israel Adesanya. Dude, on extremely short notice for a championship opportunity, Israel Adesanya, I feel as though, felt he could get some free legacy, another title defense, get his second reign, a defense so he could get back in the swing of things, right? In all honesty, Sean Strickland should not have been fighting for a title when he did, okay? He's damn near counted out entirely of this fight. Everybody thinks Israel Adesanya is going to destroy him. Izzy's a fucking minus 600 favorite against Sean Strickland, okay? I did a video when this fight was announced talking about how I didn't think Israel Adesanya would finish Sean Strickland, and I got called all sorts of shit, dude. You're a fucking idiot. You're a retard. You're fucking a stupid hater. All this bullshit, okay? All of it. And then Sean Strickland goes out there and makes the long reigning, I know he wasn't long reigning at the time because technically it was his second reign, but you know what the fuck I mean, okay? Goes out there and makes Israel Adesanya look like an amateur kickboxer. That is what he did, 100%. He made him look like a fucking amateur, okay? And it was mind-blowing to watch. Absolutely, like, stunning. I fucking screamed on my couch when he dropped him in that first round. I could not believe what I was witnessing. He made Israel Adesanya miss in the triple digits, which was something we've not ever seen before. Dropped Izzy in the first round, as I said. Damn near checked all his fucking leg kicks, okay? Which are his strongest weapon. The weapon that he uses to beat nearly everybody. The weapon that he uses when he doesn't want to engage in a crazy fucking slugfest brawl or anything like that. The weapon that he uses to find his range. Sean Strickland didn't even let him get started, okay? Defied all the odds and became the middleweight champion in one of the most impressive title performances from a challenger in recent memory, or at the very least, in my opinion. So as I said, dude, from losing a split decision to Jared Cannonier in December of 2022, after getting knocked out in, I think, July, okay, by Alex Pereira, right, to 9 months later, becoming the champion of the world when every single person counted him out against one of the longest reigning champions in the middleweight division. Strickland, in my opinion, is the fucking breakout fighter of 2023. Okay, it just is what it is, dude. Here's the fucking thing, you guys. That's it, dude. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.